How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex. I'm my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. And today we want to discuss three players the Giants have to focus in on in Week 2 against the Carolina Panthers. Of course, their receiver core is a little bit more prominent than the Tennessee Titans. Titans had Treylon Burks. Robert wasn't really a factor. It was their running back, Dontrell Hilliard, that really made the most of an impact with 2 touchdowns in the receiving game, attacking those linebackers. But Carolina has a much better receiving core. You're talking about DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, talking about Terrace Marshall. They have a lot of decent receivers here, a lot more, and the Giants don't have Aaron Robinson. So there's a big question mark about how they're going to, tailor their game plan to stop these guys. But there's 3 guys in specific I want to discuss and kind of how the Giants will approach them, Anthony. Before we dive into it, how do you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited for the Week 2 matchup against the Carolina Panthers. I think the Giants are sitting in a really pretty position right now. Huge win in Week 1 against probably one of their tougher opponents on the schedule against the Tennessee Titans. Going into Week 2, a much lesser opponent in the Carolina Panthers. This is a game that probably most fans are going to look at and say this should be a win for the Giants. This is a winnable game. I think they'll even go into it as the favorites, but they're not to be underestimated, right? The Panthers still have some talented players, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. They've also got a decent pass rush. This team isn't necessarily bad by any means. They have their fair share of problems. The Giants are probably going in as the favorites, but there are some players that the Giants need to slow down in order to win this game and start the season 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, the first one right off the bat is Christian McCaffrey, right? Christian McCaffrey is the guy that you are like, okay, if you don't stop him, you're in big trouble, right? You're in big, big trouble if Christian McCaffrey is able to run all over you. But I'm really worried about him as a receiver, right? The Cleveland Browns actually did a pretty damn good job last week in mitigating him. I think he had 33 yards on 10 carries and 24 yards on 4 receptions. The Giants can stop him on the ground. I'm not really worried about that. We have a pretty solid run defense, but Christian McCaffrey as a receiver, that's where I'm concerned. Who matches up against him? Is it Julian Love at the strong safety position who's kind of eyeing him? How are they going to stop him as a receiver? And, I do not trust Tate Crowder. I do not trust Austin Calitro or Micah McFadden man covering CMC. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be an absolute disastrous day if we have to rely on those guys. So with Dane Belton coming back, though, we have 3 safety sets. What are your thoughts on kind of deploying that a little bit more frequently and hoping they can kind of man up with maybe Julian Love or Belton or maybe more athletic safeties rather than relying on the linebackers?
Yeah, I think that's really the only way that you can't slow down Christian McCaffrey. The Giants don't have one of those world-class middle linebackers that can go, toe-to-toe with a running back, any running back, really. I mean, the Giants linebacker core is just not good in coverage. So how the Giants are going to supplement that, they have to go ahead and put some of these safeties in the box. I think you're going to see a lot of Xavier McKinney matched up against Christian McCaffrey. Xavier McKinney is awesome, covering the deep portions of the field. We love to have him be that roaming safety on the back end. However, he also is a very good man coverage safety. So putting him down in the box for a good majority of this game and watching him line up against Christian McCaffrey, you can probably bet that you're going to see that happen. I think it needs to happen in order to slow down Christian McCaffrey. If you don't slow down Christian McCaffrey, he will break the game wide open for the Carolina Panthers. And then we're talking about the 1-1 Giants and not the 2-0 Giants. So in my opinion, I think they have to put Xavier McKinney in the box more frequently in this matchup. Let him go one-on-one with Xavier McKinney. If not, at least just put one of the safeties in there. I don't want to see Tate Crowder chasing Christian McCaffrey from behind all game long, because if you put Tate Crowder on Christian McCaffrey all game, that's what you're going to see. So the Giants have to utilize their safeties. They've got decent depth at the position, so they need to utilize it against McCaffrey.
Absolutely, yeah. Use the safeties. That should be the MO in the strategy this week. But then you're looking at another really solid playmaker in Robbie Anderson, who had 102 yards and a touchdown this past week against Cleveland. He is a go route guy. He is a speedster. He's fast as hell. The question is, do you put Fabian Moreau, whoever the hell the Giants pull up on corner to play cornerback with Aaron Robinson having appendicitis and getting that appendix taken out? Who I don't know who's going to be playing there. I think it'll be Moreau. I know that I believe Brian Dable said that Moreau had a pretty solid day of practice yesterday, so that's a really good sign about him maybe taking a step forward and starting here. But I'll tell you what, Robbie Anderson, his speed, you're going to need, like, if you're moving Xavier McKinney into the box, you're going to have to be worried about Robbie Anderson running behind your defensive backfield, because he is a speedster. He will destroy Fabian Moreau, no doubt about it. I think Moreau gave up over 500 yards last year and 7 touchdowns. I do not trust that matchup, but you could say, put Adoree Jackson against Robbie Anderson and just let him man him up. And hopefully, Adoree Jackson has that makeup speed and can kind of trail him into the defensive backfield and make some plays. But that's kind of my concern. You got to be concerned about Anderson at all times. His speed is lethal. Really got to be careful about that. And luckily Baker Mayfield has a noodle for an arm. So hopefully he won't be able to hit him way downfield and McKinney can get there in time. What are your thoughts about, Robbie Anderson? Would you rather prefer to see Fabian Moreau, or would you rather see Adoree Jackson on him? Because the next guy we're going to talk about is DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think, honestly, you're probably going to have to put Adoree Jackson on Robbie Anderson just because of the speed. Adoree Jackson is a very fast corner, and he's got the ability. We've seen him actually go toe-to-toe with Tyreek Hill in the past, right? I mean, he's not faster than Tyreek Hill, but he has enough speed to get close enough to Tyreek Hill. So we've seen him do that back when he used to play for the Titans, going up against the Chiefs more frequently. We used to see Adoree Jackson line up with Tyreek Hill. So when you're talking about the speediest receiver on the Panthers, which is Robbie Anderson, you need Adoree Jackson to line up against him, match up with him. That's, in my opinion, the only way that you're slowing down Robbie Anderson in that regard. Robbie Anderson, very inconsistent player, for being real about it. Used to play for the Jets, never got the ball rolling, goes over to Carolina, starts to get the ball rolling, but a lot of inconsistencies at the quarterback position. Robbie Anderson is one of those guys that's very dependent on solid quarterback play. And right now, Baker Mayfield, very inconsistent in his own right. Robbie Anderson had his thoughts and opinions very publicly on Twitter about the fact that he kind of didn't want to play with Baker Mayfield in the first place. However, they did connect on a deep touchdown pass in week 1. They seem to have some decent chemistry, so that's definitely something for the Giants to key in on, look out for, and make sure that they don't let Robbie Anderson beat them over top. As you mentioned, yeah, Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, those guys, when they are playing the deep portions of the field, they need to key in on Robbie Anderson. Don't let him get behind the defense, because once he does, you're not catching up to him. So, yeah, in my opinion, I don't want Fabian Moreau on Robbie Anderson. I think that he is the hot hand of the two dynamic Panthers wide receivers right now. The other one we're going to discuss, DJ Moore, in a little bit of a slump after 1 week. He didn't play too well in week 1. So, of course, we'll dive into him. But in my opinion, the one that the Giants need to key in on to slow down out of the wide receivers on the Panthers, it's Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, and some people are going to say, instead of Fabian Moreau going against DJ Moore, let's put Darnay Holmes against DJ Moore. And I'll give you the snap counts, and you're going to be like, okay, maybe that's not a good idea. Darnay Holmes, obviously, primarily a slot guy, nickel guy. I don't think the Giants feel very comfortable moving him to the outside. So you're probably going to see Moreau on DJ Moore, which could be a pretty bad matchup for the Giants. This past week, he played, I believe, 17.1% of his snaps in the slot and 83% out wide. So he's primarily a boundary receiver. He does have some gadget usability. I do know he had a carry for about 7 yards last week. So they tried to get him involved. He's a little bit of a versatile piece. But Fabian Moreau is going to have to just kind of play well. DJ Moore's a good receiver. They're going to have to try to cover his butt downfield. They're going to have to try and cover him up. I do agree with you. I think Adoree Jackson should man up on Robbie Anderson. I think that speed is more of a lethal factor than DJ Moore beating them downfield. I think he's more of a short to intermediate guy. So they can handle that. If you can play the bend, don't break defense long enough, but you just can't get beat on those long passes downfield. I think Adoree Jackson going down there with Robbie makes the most sense, as you mentioned. But DJ Moore, the versatility he brings, is definitely going to be a mismatch for Fabian Moreau if he's the guy there. I don't think Darnay Holmes mans up with him because of his slot percentage. He only played 17.1% of the snaps last week in the slot. That could change, mind you. Last year entirely, he played only 18.4%. So it's not like he's traveling that much. I mean, he gets into the slot a little bit, but he's mostly a boundary guy. Darnay Holmes probably lines up in whoever's playing slot. I'm not exactly sure who that's going to be. I don't think Terrace Marshall's really considered a slot receiver. So we'll kind of see how they operate there. But Moreau on the outside with Moore and Robbie Anderson with Adoree Jackson makes the most sense. How do you think they can kind of mitigate DJ Moore here?
I think mitigating DJ Moore is going to be a tough challenge. However, he is coming off of a lackluster performance in week 1. I know that there was a lot of Panthers fans who were disappointed in DJ Moore's performance. I know that there was a lot of fantasy football players who were disappointed in his performance. 3 receptions for 43 yards in week 1. Not too stellar there. So, I think what the Giants are going to have to do is take a look at the tape, take a look at what the Browns did last week, how they were able to slow down DJ Moore, and just copy that, because they did a great job. 3 receptions for 43 yards is a very bad performance for DJ Moore by his standards. That's like extremely poor, because in the past we've seen DJ Moore be alpha dog WR1 for the Panthers. So I think for the Giants, kind of mentioning how Adoree Jackson's not going to be able to match up with DJ Moore, it's going to be pretty tough. If you're going to put Adoree Jackson on Robbie Anderson, then you are leaving yourself vulnerable to getting attacked by DJ Moore there, because Fabian Moreau can probably go up against him. Fabian Moreau used to play for the Falcons, so he actually does have familiarity lining up against DJ Moore, so that could potentially give him an edge, and that might actually be one of the compelling reasons to start Fabian Moreau at CB2 this week is because he used to play for the Falcons, division rival Panthers. He's got more familiarity going up against his team than any of these young rookies that might be starting in place of Aaron Robinson. So I think really what you want to do is put Fabian Moreau on DJ Moore, hope for the best, and you want to double team him a lot. You need an extra safety or a linebacker just rotating over in his own defense and just trying to, shut him down. Just put a lot of people on him, just basically double team him the whole game. That's the only way that you're going to really stop DJ Moore in his tracks like that, considering the fact that our CB2 is injured, Aaron Robinson out with the appendicitis. So in my opinion, that's how you do it. You double team him and you just hope for the best, and you get the guy who's most familiar with him, which is Fabian Moreau.
Absolutely. But guys, I'd love to hear perspectives below on how the Giants can kind of mitigate these players. Obviously take them out of the strategy. It's easier said than done. We'll see how Wink Martindale dials up this defense and whatnot. We'll talk a little bit about the offense tomorrow, how we think they'll game plan against Carolina's defense. So it should be a little bit of an interesting discussion. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.